Let's store more ball, fewer infractions. This begins in 2020. The future is near. More access, more everyone, more everything.
September 4th, 2019,
Our
show
story
number
to
20.
tell. This is history begun. This is the XFL.
What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I am your host, The Mark, and on this week's show, June Jones talks Tier 1 quarterback process. It's kind of interesting. Alternative XFL team names, and so much more. So how do you get in touch with the show? You email podcast at XFL News Hub with your MP3 or your thoughts, or use the Twitter hashtag XFL Army. Remember, cutoff time is 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. We'll record the show, get it all up for you. Remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. Also, remember, XFLNewsHub.com is beyond a shadow of a doubt, the undisputed number one XFL news site in all the land. Anybody else might tell you that they're number one. I can guarantee that they're not. XFL News Hub is number one. Another record-breaking traffic month. So excited that as we get closer to the kickoff, that the site's just going to grow and grow. Adding new writers on, we're excited about that, and so much more. And we give you in-depth analysis. We don't copy and paste from other places, but we actually go deep, give you a little bit of extra twist on the things that are going on in the XFL. This question of the week. Also, remember, check out our iPhone app and Android app. Again, no one else does that but your boys from XFL News Hub. And remember to check me out on Dallas Radio, 1160 AM KBDT, Sports Day with John Clemens. That's on Saturdays and Sundays. Always check that out. Question of the week. Who has better team names and logos, the AAF or the XFL? We'll get into that question later on in the show. This week's new question, well, you're going to have to wait till after the news, all right, friends? So without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was the XFL. Houston Roughnecks head coach June Jones spoke with Mark Berman of the Fox 26 in Houston, Texas, about what's next going on in the XFL. A couple topics that June Jones goes over is the process of selecting a Tier 1 quarterback. He also mentions Johnny Manziel and some other interesting tidbits. Here's what he said, quote, each team has given the XFL a list of maybe 8 or 9 and a priority. Every team did that, trying to place quarterbacks to the team and coaches who want to have them, close quote. So what he's saying is that each of the teams submitted a list to the XFL front office of players between 1 and 9. The number one guy, their number one quarterback they want, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. XFL will reach out to those players and I guess try to make a deal. Now, one of those players that June Jones mentioned again was Johnny Manziel. He said Manziel is probably on 5 lists and was on his list as well. So there's possibly 5 teams plus the Houston Roughnecks who are interested in Johnny Manziel. He goes on to say that the league, quote, the league is making decisions on for what's best for the league in talking about Manziel, whether or not they want to bring him in the league. I'm sure they're doing background checks, all this kind of stuff. And he goes on to say, of course, that the XFL draft will be in October and consist of players from the AAF, CFL, Spring Showcase, and NFL Cuts. So it sounds like we have 6 teams that have Johnny Manziel on their QB list. We know Dallas Renegades is definitely not one of them. We talked about that in a previous episode. Daryl Johnson talked about how he's not interested in Johnny Manziel. Now, where exactly Manziel is on the priority list, we don't know. He could be number 1 or he could be all the way at number 9. We don't know. So Jones also clarifies that each team's head coach will pick his quarterback. So, most likely, that means that Landry Jones is going to be your Dallas Renegades starting quarterback because of his relationship with, of course, Bob Stoops. Where Manziel lands, I've said from the beginning, it's Houston or bust for him. It's up to June Jones if he wants to bring him in. But if there's any kind of sketchiness with Manziel, I don't know what he's going to be doing. He's going to have to do some more car commercials. Back in June, we revealed potential names for the XFL Seattle franchise, and one of them turned out, of course, to be the Seattle Dragon. Remember Seattle Surge and the drink thing? Well, how we found them was on a United States Patent and Trademark Office search. And what happened back then was as soon as the news hit, of course, it was all over the Instagrams, the Twitters, etc. So the XFL couldn't really do that, even though I was checking every day to to see if they would post some names. Well, after the official announcement, the XFL finally submitted those names along with the top 5 choices from each of their 8 franchises to the United States Patent Trademark Office. So these are top 5 names for each of the XFL franchises, of course, and we'll go with the one that they eventually chose. So for New York, you had the New York Gothams, New York Power, New York Grind, New York Cannons, and of course they went with New York Guardians. Washington, D.C. was the D.C. Knights, D.C. Sentinels, D.C. Stars, D.C. Armada, and of course they went with the D.C. Defenders. Dallas, XFL Dallas, was Dallas Blaze, Dallas Bandits, Dallas Lobos, Dallas Mustangs, and they went with, of course, the Dallas Renegades. Houston was the Houston Comets, which, isn't that a WNBA team? Houston Wildcatters, Houston Nitro, that's kind of interesting, Houston Octane, and of course they went with the Houston Roughnecks. St. Louis was St. Louis Archers, St. Louis Grey Wolves, St. Louis Phantom, St. Louis Aces, and of course they went with St. Louis Battlehawks. Tampa Bay Stingers, Tampa Bay Predators, Tampa Bay Sharks, Tampa Bay Frenzy, and of course they went with the Tampa Bay Vipers. And finally, XFL Los Angeles, their top 5 names were LA Gold, LA Stunners, which made me think of Stone Cold, LA Wings, LA Legion, and LA Wildcats. Do you think they got the names right? Send us a message, leave a comment, and let us know what you think. So we learned that XFL front office staff, team head coaches, and player personnel were in Houston this past weekend to monitor the NFL Cutdown Day. With 6 months to go before kickoff in 2020, there was no rest for the XFL. The final NFL roster cutdowns needed to be submitted by 5 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. And after that happened, waiting in the wings in Houston, Texas, was the XFL looking to build their talent pool for the mid-October draft. Daniel Kaplan of The Athletic, of course, reported that all XFL head coaches would be in Houston. Also, Tony Softly, Director of Player Personnel of the XFL Dragons, confirmed this too via his Twitter. He said, quote, headed to the XFL League meetings in Houston this weekend. And of course, he had 2 tickets to the Steve Miller Band he was giving away to fans. So he was there. But we also learned that not only the head coaches will be in Houston, assistant coaches, however, are staying home since XFL head coaches are also the GM. Like many NFL reporters and broadcasters, they've pointed out that NFL Cutdown Day is the end of the road for many football players. I heard this on telecasts. I heard this you watched it on Twitter, that if they get cut, their dreams are over. That's not the case. The XFL and their fans, us, are excited to watch them play starting in February 2020. So no, it's not the end of the road, Adam Schefter. It's just the beginning. It is the beginning of the XFL. Now, we reported earlier about June Jones talking about the process of how teams are securing their number 1 Tier 1 quarterbacks. They're sending their list of 8 to 9 players to the XFL front office, and they're trying to sign them, and the coaches are rating the players from 1 to 9. Clearly, 9 is their number 1 pick, and so forth. And if they can secure one of these players, they would become the Tier 1 quarterback of their franchise. Well, it looks like the LA Wildcats have made it known that their number 1 choice for their Tier 1 quarterback could be former San Diego Chargers quarterback Cardale Jones, who was recently cut by the Chargers on NFL Cutdown Day. According to Tom Kasovich of the San Diego Union Tribune, Wildcats offensive coordinator Norm Chow has his eye on Cardale Jones. Quote, you would hope that this league would entice people like Cardale and give them a platform. A guy like Cardale would be very valuable in my mind to the XFL. Jones, a 4th-round pick of the Buffalo Bills in 2016, was traded to the Chargers in 2017. He spent the 2018 season on the Chargers practice squad. Jones was the talk of the preseason, and getting the former Ohio State Buckeye in the XFL could be a big win for the league. The XFL already has 1 tier quarterback, former Pittsburgh Steeler Landry Jones, and of course all signs point to the former Oklahoma Sooner quarterback joining his former coach, Bob Stoops, with XFL's Dallas Renegades. All right, we'll be back with your social media stuff and emails right after this. Stay tuned, my friends. Oh, and the question of the week. Stay tuned, my friends. Listen up, XFL News Hub fans. We got something for you. We have an Android app for your phone. That's right. We're excited to announce the launch of this app, and best of all, it is free. So you get all the breaking XFL news and information from XFL News Hub right on your phone. All you have to do is visit the Google Play Store, type in XFL or near the top, or just type search for XFL News Hub. That's right. In the Google Play Store, that's all that you need to do. So what do you get with this app? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier XFL news source in the world, in the universe. You get push notifications when we post a new story. That's optional. You turn it on and off, so you get notifications when breaking news happens. You can leave a comment right from your phone. You don't have to be on the website. You just leave it right on your phone. You can get, of course, this podcast on your phone as easy, and you can leave us a review on the Google Play Store. You can do that too, plus links to all of our social media accounts. So it's very simple. Just head over to the Google Play Store, type in XFL News Hub, and download your XFL News Hub app for the Android phone today. All right, we are back. Now, next week's question. So this week's question is, who has better team names and logos, AAF or XFL? We just talked about Cardale Jones and Johnny Manziel. So for this week's question, who would you rather have as your XFL QB? Johnny Manziel, Cardale Jones, or also cut Paxton Lynch? Email us, podcast@xflnewshub.com, with your thoughts on that one. On to the social media stuff. 2020 Hindsight 3 says, talking about the logos, it says, hard to pick a worse because they were all good, unlike the first XFL. If I had to, I would say Battlehawks, but it's growing on me already, and I love the colors and logos. Rich 04 Real. I agree. I feel badly for the players who get cut from NFL teams. Thank God the XFL players will still get a chance to play the game that they love. I agree with that. America Guy 1. I could see where you're coming from, but my question is, why are the eyes red? He was talking about, we had an article out there about the Battle of the Renegades and how the Renegades logos looks similar to another Renegades logo. I think the red eyes are just to make it cool, man. Skin Piglet. Do the XFL Renegades have a Ruffy the Beaver mascot like the old Ottawa Renegades? Hashtag Beaver Fever? I don't know about that. At Backstage Slam, the design wouldn't have passed the trademark process if it were deemed anywhere near stolen or copied. Just my opinion, though. Good point on that one. Clearly, the XFL knows what they're doing. They were very careful because it took them a long time to come out with the XFL team names. So we know that they are fine with the logo. I mean, I think there's several teams that had that logo and similar things, and so I don't think it's a problem. At Steve 2, bunch of numbers. I like the AAF logos very much, but I gotta say XFLs are better. Just think they had more time, so they came out much better, in my opinion. And finally, Rich for Real, talking about the LA Wildcats, Cardale Jones. That would be great. He really needs a chance to show how good he can be. That's what I'm saying. Cardale Jones was the talk of the NFL preseason. I heard his name multiple times and how great he played and how great he looked. Love to see him get a shot in the XFL. Some comments on the YouTubes. Donald Long says, we need them official XFL 2020 team jerseys. Yeah, I think they're coming soon. I would assume, let's put it this way, that they would be out before the XFL draft, as especially those tier 1 guys holding up the jerseys. It will get people all sorts of fired up. I think that over the next month, we'll see some more players getting invites, some bigger name guys, tier 1 quarterbacks sign. And I think as soon as they sign a guy, they're going to put it out there. We're going to get to guess which team they're on. And I think we'll get jerseys before the draft. Leon M. says Wildcats is the first ever pro football team name. It stands for all the Wildcats in LA. Oh, the Wildcats. Sharon Loy says DC, Dallas, and Seattle have my favorites. Guardians comes close too. Mr. Pete Channel needs 700 subs. Says, I'm from Jersey and shall cheer for the Guardians, but DC Defenders is the best roll off the tongue name. Going back to our podcast last week, talking about team names and ranking the team names. That's on the YouTube, and there is way more stuff on the YouTube than just that. On to the Instagram. We were talking about best logos, AAF or XFL. Inside College Football says the AAF, TBH. Yeah, they weren't cool, but you knew what they meant and represented to the team or city. Also goes on to say the XFL logos and names look like it came out of a generic unlicensed football video game. Mark.Galacatitio. AAF, XFL looks like they took the logos from the USFL. Should have used names from the original XFL. Gary Gradsworld says XFL. Chauncey Gilroy, I would say the AAF only because XFL did not give XFL Roughnecks the Columbia blue color scheme. I'll still be rooting for those Roughnecks, though. Vic VHVFC underscore Cubs fan, XFL. Bulk to Hulk 19 goes with the AAF. Very mixed signals there on the Instagrams about team names and logos, AAF versus XFL. About the Renegades. Oh, this was from our previous show. Zach says Vince McMahon says that President Trump and Stone Cold Steve Austin are invited to opening week of the XFL. Way back when the league was announced, he said there was going to be no connections between the XFL and WWE, and also no politics or gimmicks, just fun and football. If that is true, he goes back on his word to the people about the league and what it's supposed to be. I don't like people who do that. What do you think, in your opinion, would it be a good move or a bad move, or just part of this, if on his part, if this were true? I heard something out there about Stone Cold Steve Austin and President Trump. I didn't really think there was anything to it from my background check on it. I think the XFL is run by Oliver Luck, and I don't think Vince is going to invite Stone Cold Steve Austin to the game. They are so trying to be XFL 2.0, not 1.1, that I don't think they're going to make a big deal with President Trump or having Stone Cold come out and give a few words. I think we might see Vince McMahon, but honestly, it should just be all Oliver Luck. Vince, you are the money guy behind it. Let the football guys be the football guys, and they want to distance themselves from the XFL from 2001. And if you also notice, have we seen Vince anywhere at all? Except for when they announced the cities, maybe? He was there. Team names, everything else. We haven't heard from him at all. About the top 5 choices for the team names that we talked about earlier. It's crazy because Bert Benes says it's crazy because if look now at the team names, it's like day and night almost. If I would have to choose 8 team names based on these trademarks, it would have been the New York Guardians, the DC Knights, Dallas Mustangs, Houston Roughnecks, St. Louis Grey Wolves, Tampa Bay Sharks, LA Stunners, Seattle Surge. Now, if you look at the current, it's like, Tampa Bay would have had a really amazing team name like Sharks, or even St. Louis would have had the Archers, or even Grey Wolves, or even LA Stunners, or even Seattle Surge. And now it's like Vipers, Wildcats, Battlehawks, Dragons, I kind of like the names that they went with. A couple of them in there, like you put like the Archers, been kind of cool. Grey Wolves, Sharks. But isn't there there's a hockey team that's Sharks? So what about the Tampa Bay Hurricanes? Or isn't that taken too? Bobby says, I said they should have gone with the St. Louis Archers. It would have been a good one. But they have a Battlehawks is really cool too. Come on, that logo is cool. About Timothy Tebow in the XFL. Let's see here. Mark says, I hope not. Jeffrey Gooddow. Jeffrey says, why? Because you couldn't hack it in Major League Baseball either, nor in the XFL. On to the XFL prospects in 2019, cut from NFL teams. Got our brand new writer on board, Mickey J. Wind, famous XFL Twitter man, with his great article about the different prospects out there. Mark says Hoyer already signed with the Colts. Chris, Sam Bradford back in St. Louis would be an interesting way to start that team. And Jeff also says how funny would it be to see Sam Bradford back at St. Louis. I think we all forgot about Sam Bradford, and he just kind of fell off the face of the earth. But take a couple $100,000, play in the XFL, maybe get another backup role, make a little bit more money. I mean, you're not getting, unless he's got, he was a first-round pick, wasn't he? So he got plenty of cash. But I would like to see Sam Bradford in there. About the XFL logos versus AAF. Don says, AAF, it's not even a debate. Bennis says it takes time to actually become a true fan of the XFL when you look back at the AAF and what the future could have been for that league alone, but it's really not easy to choose between XFL and AAF team logos because the AAF have really nice logos and like Salt Lake Stallions, San Diego Fleet, San Antonio Commanders, Orlando Apollos, Memphis Express. XFL logos are right now like, eh. Of course, we got his reaction earlier. I never liked the AAF team names or logos. I thought they kind of sucked. But I'm really surprised everybody else was like, AAF. Asib says both. All right. Yeah, I got to pick one. He says AAF only because we didn't get the XFL team names this time. Oh, because we didn't get an XFL team this time. Jared, I'm for both. AAF had some cool logos of San Diego Fleet and San Antonio Commanders, but I like the majority of XFL, so it's a tie for me. Another tie. Eric, XFL, but I'm bummed Alabama doesn't have a team. Zach, XFL. Charlotte, XFL. Jeffrey, AAF. John, XFL. Anthony, XFL. Brian, XFL. XFL wins because they agree with me. I think the XFL stuff was better. I was not a fan. Commanders? I mean, defenders. Commanders? I don't know. On to the email. Tyrone says, brand deal. How do you think XFL will sign with Nike, Adidas, or Under Armour? I'm a Maryland guy. I would love to see Under Armour. Under Armour's kind of got a little swag to it here in Maryland. Nike would be a good one too. No word on who or what will be the brand manufacturer. Our man Nicholas, number one emailer, says, I saw that Taylor Cornelius and Brad Mays was at one of the showcases. I hope both of them make it. Look at what Taylor Cornelius did at Oklahoma State. He was perfect for the XFL. He played in a wide open offense and has the tangibles to be good. He is really underrated. Brad Mays was also great at Lehigh, which I mentioned before in the showcases. He played at a small school, had good numbers, but nothing great. So he did not get noticed the way he should have been. He has a rocket arm. Both of these players are underrated for different reasons, and both have the intangibles to be great. They are just underrated. These types of players would make the XFL 2020 a success. Just keep these names out. I'm really curious to see what happens. Jerry checking in says, which stadiums will the teams play in? We're going to have a full recap of the different stadiums coming soon. We're already starting the stadium tailgating guides. We're working on those. So stick with XFL News Hub for that. But we have somewhere, just do a search on XFL. We'll get you all the team stadium names and where they play in. But we should probably work on that a little bit. That's not a bad idea. Brian checking in. He says, please add me to your list. And if you don't have one, I'd gladly help you create and maintain one. Okay. Well, Brian, we'll have to get in touch with you there. Paul says, I'd like to know when we are going to get the team's website. I don't know if that's true. I don't know when they're going to do the team website right now. Stick everything with the XFL. There's really not much content you can do for the separate team names just yet. You need roster, you need training camps, you can get kind of news, and they need to build up their staff to actually create this stuff. I would assume that that's coming soon. Brent said, guys, if you want to be taken seriously, release a schedule and ticket prices before asking people for money. Brent, we are not the XFL. We are taken seriously because we are the number one XFL news site, hands down. Hands down. Release a schedule and ticket prices before asking people for money. We got a schedule. We don't know specifically the games, but we know the blocks. But we don't know the ticket prices. All that's coming soon. We're building it, Brent. Chillax, my friend. You'll be fine. Nicholas checking in a second time. After NFL cutdown day, could these be the potential 8 Tier 1 quarterbacks? Landry Jones, Paxton Lynch, Mike White, Davis Webb, Cardale Jones, Kyle Slaughter, Terrell Pryor, and Jeff Driscoll. I was thinking about Terrell Pryor too, because remember he played wide receiver. I think he should play in the XFL. It would be really interesting. I don't think he would go back to playing quarterback. Cardale Jones, we talked about him. And, of course, Paxton Lynch would be good, too. Notice his list does not consist of Johnny Manziel. Now, he says Jeff Driscoll. He has not been released yet, but reports are he lost behind Doug Gala. And finally, and will be released upon an injury settlement. Also, I saw that Taylor Cornelius and Brad Mays. So, one of the showcase, we already went over that part. So, there is his 8 potential Tier 1 quarterbacks. Paxton Lynch, Cardale Jones, be definitely interested in those guys. Donald says, when will professional team logo tattoos be available? I'm curious about something I can take to my regular tattoo artist. Donald wants a tattoo. I could give you one of the XFL News Hub logo, and I really would not recommend you tattooing yourself with the XFL News Hub logo. But wow, we're all in for the XFL. He's ready to I was thinking about this the other day, actually. I was like, is anybody going to go there and tattoo the logo and the team on their arms or anything? I mean, what is it going to look like when you're in there, you're 80? What if you tattooed the Houston Oilers? They're not there anymore. Or anybody from the AAF. Do you have to like somehow rewrite over it with the XFL team name? Just be careful, Donald. I'm worried about you. Be careful. Vonens Limero. I'm not on the draft list you guys updated, and I've accepted my invite. All right. Well, we update that about every 24 hours. Thanks to Greg Parks and the guys at XFL, especially mainly him, and XFLboard.com. So we update that probably every day. He updates at night. We'll try to keep it updated. But don't worry. Your name will be on there. I'm sure he'll get it. And if he didn't, he just heard it now. And that is it, folks, for this week's edition of the XFL Week in Review. Now, if you want to be part of it, remember next week's question. Who would you rather have as your XFL quarterback? Johnny Manziel, Cardale Jones, or Paxton Lynch? So our man Nicholas, the number one emailer, chime in with a couple of those names as well and some other ones. If you want to be part of the show, you just email podcast@xflnewshub.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just type in XFL News Hub. It's not very hard, folks. Plus, we got the Android app on Google Play and the iPhone app on iTunes. Huge numbers increase over the course of the last week after the XFL made their team names announcements. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. That is it for me, folks. I've got 10 minutes before my NFL fantasy football draft. Excited about that. I'm excited about the XFL more than the NFL. It's like, I'm like, cool, NFL's here. Okay, can we get it over with so that we can get to February 8th and 9th. I cannot wait for kickoff. I can't wait for team uniforms and players. It's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. Thanks for joining me on the journey. Thanks for listening. Mahalo to all my friends. And be safe there, all my homies on the East Coast, down to Florida and all that stuff. Be safe. God bless you all, and I will see you all later.